Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. This is going to be part 3 of the Watts family case murders. I did part 1 on Monday and part 2 on Tuesday, so if you're interested and you want to check those out, there will be a link in the description box down below. If you're watching this in the future and you want to watch from the beginning till the end, there will be a playlist in the comments down below. Now, last time we talked about how Chris's friends and even family members that adored this guy pointed the police to check his phone, his computer. Now, don't think for a minute that it was just a family. When your wife, your kids disappear, you immediately become a person of interest for them. Not a suspect, but a person of interest. So this was something that was undergoing anyways. I mean, they were working on a search warrant of the house, and listen, all those things are not things that the police can get because they feel like it. To get a search warrant, they have to have some kind of a probable cause. They have to suspect that there was some kind of some kind of a criminal activity or some kind of something happened there. So while they were trying to get the search warrant, the news broke in national TV, and a lot of footage, including Chris, was released. When he was watching the neighborhood, the next door neighbors, surveillance camera footage, you could see how nervous he was. And in case you didn't know, there's a lot of footage that later on people will dissect and kind of explain how you could tell that he was lying from the beginning. And that footage comes from a lot of the body cameras of the police officers working there. Now, when the police get the search warrant, you could tell that he has been cleaning. And they found the bed top sheet and pillowcases in the trash. Remember that they were missing from the master room? They found a fitted sheet that was missing. Well, they realized that they couldn't find this fitted sheet. And they also found Shanann's Apple Watch, which they were hoping that she was still carrying because they wanted to check where it was because of the GPS. However, I am sure that they knew that the Apple Watch was in the house because I'm assuming that was one of the first things that they checked. Now, more suspicious, this is getting worse and worse looking for Chris. Apparently, Chris reported his daughter not going to preschool that morning on the 13th at around 8 a.m. And he even told the preschool teacher that the family was considering moving away. And he ended that call with, "They aren't there, are they?" Which, by the way, that sounds he knew that they weren't there. He knew that. So that's kind of interesting. Chris also texted Shanann at 7:40 a.m. She never replied back, of course. And he called her at 8:25 a.m. He wasn't worried, apparently, that she didn't pick up the phone, even though we know that Nicole mentioned that Shanann was the kind of girl that would always pick up the phone. Now, when they searched Chris's phone, they found that he was searching up a song, a Metallica song, I think. It's called Battery. It's a very disturbing song if you know what happened to the girls. I'm not saying the song itself is very disturbing, but it kind of tells you the state of mind that this guy had. Now, Shanann planned this trip to North Carolina that he mentioned. Remember that initially he mentioned that they were going to North Carolina for vacation and that they came back on the 7th. Well, Shanann planned this trip to North Carolina and she was going to stay there for 6 weeks. Apparently she was going to be there for 5 weeks by herself and the girls, and Chris was going to join them the last week. He said that they were struggling with their marriage and that Shanann wanted some time to think and try to work things out, maybe creating some kind of distance. He also told the police, and quote, that both of them fell out of love with each other. They were disconnected, but there was no cheating involved on either side. While Shanann visited North Carolina, she even managed to go visit Chris' parents. I mean, they didn't like her, but she wanted the girls to know their grandparents and she wanted them to have a relationship with them. They made this big party, get together with cousins and family members, and this was at Chris's parents' home. Shanann told her mother-in-law that Sissy was allergic to nuts and that she could not have them, not even near her. Yet the mother-in-law decided to go buy ice cream with nuts and gave all the kids and almost gave this ice cream to Sissy. But Shanann caught her before she did and left the house. Some people believe that the mother-in-law was trying to prove that Shanann was lying and that Sissy wasn't really allergic. That it was all in Shanann's head and that basically she was making stuff up about the girls. Shanann was furious. She left the house and she immediately called Chris, expecting Chris to take her side. However, Chris decided to not take any sides, and he kind of stood in the middle. She was pretty upset and she told him to go find his balls, basically. And according to some people that were close to them, Shanann was very well known for belittling Chris in their arguments. He was a chill personality, or he had a chill personality. She was a type A. It was almost like when she got frustrated, she tried to make him feel less of a man. And, I'm not saying that that's right, or I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just telling you what people close to the family would describe their relationship as, or their argument as. Now, at that point, while Shanann was in North Carolina, he started to act very distant. He was pulling away. He was not picking up her calls. She texted and he wouldn't reply. She would ask him what's going on, and he would ignore her or make up excuses of why he couldn't pick up the phone, basically. When he ended up going back to North Carolina for that last week that they were going to spend there, things remained very distant. I mean, he was sleeping in a different bed. They almost didn't talk to each other. And finally, they had a very long and much needed talk where he said that they were not compatible anymore and he wanted a divorce. He wanted to sell the house. and wasn't sure that he wanted to have the baby. I don't know what he expected from her as far as the baby. It's not like she could have done anything about it. And if the baby was going to be born, what did he mean by, I don't want the new baby? He didn't want to put his name in the birth certificate and call it his son? I just don't understand that part of the conversation, but it was very clear that he didn't want any counseling. She told him that she loved him, but he rejected her over and over. It was so bad that they had to cancel their gender reveal party. And they decided to go back on August the 7th. That night, Chris slept in the basement bed. And Shanann continued the talk. I mean, she wouldn't want to stop talking about it. Chris was almost like hiding. He didn't want to talk about it. And all of this was taken, I should say, out of a lot of text and conversations and messages that Shanann left for Chris. She wouldn't let it go. But you can feel that Chris said what he wanted to say. He wanted a divorce, but Shanann was almost like ignoring him. Like she didn't want to hear it. She wasn't going to give up. So after having many, many more conversations after that one, and after Shanann pushing and pushing on this, he agreed on counseling and a weekend trip to Aspen the following weekend, which was going to be from the 17th to the 19th of August. Before then, she had to go to Arizona, so on the 10th, she left. And according to her friends that were with her during this trip, she was sad, she was preoccupied. And even one of her friends told her, don't you think that he might be cheating on you? But she kind of threw that idea to the side by saying that he didn't have the guts. Let's call it that. But, you know, that little seed was planted, and she decided to check her bank account that they had together. And she found a charge in a salon for $60. She called Chris. He did pick up. And he said that he was eating salmon and something else. And she looks up the menu of that place online. She realized that what he said he ate should have costed $20, not $60. She knew immediately that something was up. And maybe he did have the guts to cheat on her. Well, now let's go back to the time where Shanann was missing and the girls too. At this point is where Nicole Kassinger shows up in the story, and she did by going to the police. But before she went to the police, she decided to delete all of the texts, the social media messages, the calls, the naked selfies, and Chris's contact info from her phone. But Chris had everything in his phone. He had some things hiding in an app that it's kind of a calculator app where you can put there stuff that you don't want anybody to find in your phone. But it was filled with nude selfies and stuff like that. Now when Nicole gets to... This is not the Nicole that was friends with Shanann, just so you know. This was Nicole, the mistress. So she is willing to talk. She tells the police that she's willing to talk. And that they are more than welcome to look in her computer and her phone. And she said that she went to the police because he lied to her. she tells the police that they met in June of 2018, that they work for the same company, and that her job was actually in the main office. Now, she's a 30-year-old lady, and they started talking and flirting, but she said that he told her that he was in the finalizing part of his divorce. Later on, she says that he told her about the girls or his daughters, and that she thought that it was cute that he was a dad. She also said in that interview that she didn't know who Chris's wife was, and she also made a point to say that Chris was more into her than she was into him. Later on, they found out that there were a lot of Google searches on her computer, and that she was looking up Shanann, so she did know who Shanann was. She was looking up her social media, that kind of thing. She also looked up wedding venues, dresses, honeymoons. In that interview, she said that they had a very active sex life with Chris, 4 times a day, in her apartment at least. And she also said that they even went on a camping trip together. This was not a public relationship, though. That's what she said. Because he was not completely done with this divorce. But she mentions that while Shanann was in North Carolina, they took that camping trip. Now, suddenly, and I'm going to call it suddenly because I don't know what else to call it, right before the girls disappeared and the day that was reported, they went on this date, and that date was very public. That date was in the place where Shanann found that he made a charge of $60, and that was kind of the first time that they were out in public as a couple. Now, Nicole, the mistress, said that she was encouraging Chris to go back to his wife, but she said that she was encouraging the guy to go back to his wife that day where they were in this very public date. But she also said that they had sex before and after the meal. Well, I don't know how she was encouraging the guy to go back to his wife, but okay, that's what she said. She said that she went to the police because she found out Shanann was pregnant, and she confronted Chris. And he said, well, the baby, it wasn't his. She knew that he lied, and she was wondering if he was lying about something else. That is why she went to the police, or at least that's the excuse that she gave. Now, let's go back to the GPS on Chris's work truck. Now they have all the exact times. Like, they know that he turned on the truck at 5:27. That he left his house at 5:45. That he went to work where he was supposed to be. That he parked in a specific parking spot. He stayed there until 6:53 a.m. Oh, I'm sorry, from 6:53 a.m. to 8:30 alone until 7. So from 7 till 8:30 he had some company. His friend and co-worker noticed him wearing baggy clothes, boots, and that he parked in a very unusual spot by some oil tanks, and seemed like that he has been digging. Now, it could be, he works, after all, in oil wells, so it could have been related to work. But if the friend / co-worker could see that something was up, something was different, it definitely meant that it was. Now, At that point, Chris left to go to another location, but stopped in a convenience store, and he was caught on camera wearing an orange, which is a different shirt from the one that he was wearing when he was with his coworker. He talked to the salesperson while he was buying a breakfast sandwich, and he went to the other side when he started to receive the calls on his cell phone from Nicole. Later on from Shanann's family and friends. And going back to the day after, all this was very suspicious. I mean, the police wanted to look at those oil tanks. Why was he parking by those oil tanks when he never used to? Why is he wearing this kind of clothes that later on he changed? I mean, if you look at these oil tanks, they had lids that you have to open in order to check what's inside. When the police initially looked around, they also saw a little bit of disrupted soil. Almost like somebody digged there recently. Although that's not a very uncommon thing, it was recent enough that it created some kind of suspicion around it. The FBI questioned Chris and asked for a polygraph. At this point, he agreed, but he said that he needed to talk to his dad first. And that is, I think, a very popular part of this case, when he says that he will confess, but before he needs to talk to his dad. However, at this point, he's only asked for a polygraph, that he lied there. Okay, so this was not at the time that he decided to confess. This was the time that he needed to go take that polygraph, but he needed to talk to his dad first. Now, if you're wondering what kind of polygraph this guy had, it wasn't a very extensive one, but it was a very telling one. Now, I'm going to tell you the 3 questions that he was asked. Number 1, did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance? Number 2, are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann? Number 3, do you know where Shanann is now? He answered no to all of the questions, and he failed this polygraph test. So now we have a lot more against Chris. I mean, things are looking pretty bad for him. And things are starting to tell me a story about this guy. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I think about it just now, but we'll go through different theories on Friday of what people think he is. My theory on it, but it almost feels like the guy didn't plan the whole thing. It kind of happened because he knew that the truck had a GPS. He knew that he was parking in a different spot that was very far away from where he usually parks, and it would mean that he would have to walk a longer distance to get to work. That's not part of human nature. We don't do that. You fight for that parking spot by the Walmart front door, right? They're little things. And, I'm just making fun of our human nature. But in this case, it was almost like he was giving away the fact that he had something to do with this. Why would he change his shirt? Why would he be wearing this baggy clothes that he never wore at work? And why would he look like he was digging? And it was almost like, I don't want to sound mean, but it was almost like a 5-year-old trying to cover up something. Minimal effort, minimal thought behind it, And that is why when people tell me or say that he was a psychopath, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Because the psychopaths that I know, they were pretty hard to catch because they really do put a lot of thought into what they were going to do. They really think things through. But in this case, it seemed like a 5-year-old trying to cover up that they ate a cupcake. And, I had a kindergartner once, and, they were like, no, I didn't eat that cookie. And you can see the chocolate smeared all over their face. And you're like, okay. You wash your hands, but you forgot to wash your face. It just seems like if he was trying, he was either not a smart person, or really he probably just snapped and acted on something, did this horrible thing. But wouldn't you snap out of it after the first killing, though? Because it would take killing 3 different people, and 3 of the closest people that you said you loved. Well, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Please join me tomorrow, Thursday, and we'll have I'll try to make them not too long, but I know that the next 2 parts are going to be pretty long because there's a lot more that we have to cover. But I hope that you are understanding a little bit better throughout this series, and helping you go through something this horrible, but put a timeline together. And hopefully by the end of the series we can have a better understanding what happened that day and the kind of person that Chris Watt is, and the overall sadness of the story of something that could have been avoided 100%. People just fall out of love. Yes, they do. It's normal. Breaking a family, it's hard, but it's not the end of the world. It shouldn't have to come down to, I need to get rid of them because otherwise I won't be able to. There's no other way around it. That kind of thought. My goodness. I mean, you do all this research to find out that they were trying to fix a problem when all they did was making it worse. He could have chose to leave. He could have said, bye, I am moving out. I have a new girlfriend. Or I am going to rent my own apartment. Or I'm going to leave in my car. But I am not going to put up with this relationship anymore if I'm so sick and tired of it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. I hope I never will. But I guess my message to end part 3 is there's always a way out. There's always a solution to your problem. And it might look very dark right now. And it might look like there's nothing that you can do about it. But let me tell you, there's always something you can do about it when it comes down to relationships. If you're talking about, I am sick and I am dying, well, that's the kind of thing that we cannot change unless you believe in the power of healing through your words and through your mind. But you know what I mean. This is the other kind of problem. The kind of problem that it's so sucks to go through it. Sucks to go through through a divorce. Sucks to go through the finances, the lawyers, the fighting, the bickering. It sucks. But he didn't fix anything, did he? He didn't make things better. He still lost his house, he lost his kids, he lost his wife, and now he wanted his freedom and now he's locked up. And he has to be moved around because of the kind of killer that he is and how not even people in jail would put up with the guy. Goodness gracious. Did he snap? Let's leave it at that. Please come back tomorrow for part 4 and Friday for the theories and the ending of this sad case. If you're watching this in the future, there will be a playlist in the comments down below, so you can go ahead and check that out. Thanks for being here, guys, for the support, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.